90% are lonely, 87% are suffering from relationship issues. Why? Because they are always on their digital life rather than real life. I did not ever wanted to become a founder. Anyone who comes and tells me founder बनना है, मैं बोलता हूँ क्यों बनना है, ठीक है? Because founder is the most difficult job.
How was Shark Tank? Can you just walk us through?
For us, it was very exciting experience. We were one of the few pre-revenue companies which got into Shark Tank, right? Which was very interesting.
How can a person get into Shark Tank? Like,
be it applying for YC, be it applying for Shark Tank, right? You need to be very clear. In
Neo Sapien, how did it begin? Like the whole thought process of starting this?
So Neo Sapien means creating a smarter race of humans. And right now our memory retention rate is only 2%. And that's why we are building your second brain.
So can you elaborate on why it's difficult to build a hardware?
Hardware is difficult because you need to be like a maniac.
When investors would be asking, because even they are skeptical when it comes to investing in hardware.
Truly original hardware startups are very limited in India. Government as such, to an extent, needs to actually allow innovation. Well, when I went into Shark Tank, the only thing I had to pray was that our...
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Tech Talks. I'm Vandana Nair, Senior Tech Journalist at AI Media House. Today I have with me a founder who was recently funded on Shark Tank India Season 4. I have with me the co-founder and CEO of Neo Sapien, Dhananjay Yadav. Hello Dhananjay, welcome to our show.
Super excited about this.
Thank you. Firstly, congrats on the funding.
Thank you.
From Namita Tapar, if I'm right. You got an 80 lakh funding. So tell me, how was the whole experience? How was Shark Tank? Can you just walk us through what happened before the whole scene?
So it was, for us, it was very exciting experience. We were one of the few pre-revenue companies which got into Shark Tank, right? Which was very interesting. And yeah, because generally you are used to pitching in English, right? So you are supposed to learn to pitch in Hindi, okay? And I always speak Hindi at home, right? So while it was much more easier for me to learn, because by default my language is Hindi. But overall, you are supposed to see what demo you are supposed to do, okay, how you are supposed to go, what costume you are supposed to wear, right?
Yeah.
And then finally, when you enter the tank, it's one suit, right? It's one of the biggest events in your life. So you are nervous, anxious at the same point of time. And as soon as we entered into Shark Tank, right, there was this scene where I was supposed to basically pull up my wearable and put it in my neck, right? Now, when you are entering, right, you're a little bit nervous. So another point to get nervous is basically picking it up and putting it inside, hoping that everything falls in line so that I can start pitching as it is, right? So that was quite interesting. That was quite numbing, right? And then during the pitch also is the fact that when you're pitching everything, right, there are certain things which you can show in front of TV, certain things which you can't show in front of TV. So for example, there was one very interesting question where Kunal asked, and I really respect his question. He asked that this is something which you are smart enough, you can ask to your second brain, you can ask your actual brain also. But there are certain IP issues because of which I cannot show actually the whole potential of product, right? Because it will always tell names.
Correct.
During the...
which
I can't. Right, so there were certain these things, but apart from this, I think it was phenomenal experience. I totally respect everyone. I loved the kind of question Kunal asked. He is one of the biggest investors, right? He has invested in lots of companies. I really liked Aman question also. We were very, very lucky to have one of the angels which I was looking forward to, Anupam, even before Shark Tank, right? I have always been his massive fan because of the fact that he is very straightforward to the point that this will work, this will not work. And when he joined us as a founding advisor, not only as an investor, but as a founding advisor to help us building the product, he was very directed. And that for me gave me a lot of confidence, right, to build something which is so different. In Tank, when we went right, one of the persons we wanted was Namita as well, because Namita brings in healthcare expertise, which for us is very critical because we realize that not only the efficiency market, which is your leaders market, I also believe one of the biggest market for this is healthcare. And that's where we actually wanted Namita. And before that also, when you are entering any pitch, it's acting anywhere, you have certain goals. This is the amount I am going to raise, and this to this is the equity I am going to dilute anywhere, right? And in that point of time, it fell under those specific targets which we had set. So we directly went ahead with it. So that was quite good. Another one I enjoyed, another incident which I really enjoyed was with Detox. Okay, he was super sweet. He is in fact one of the most sweetest guy. He will make you feel very comfortable.
Okay.
He made us feel very comfortable to an extent. I thought he is going to invest, but then what happened, for some reason it did not go through. But at the end of the day, he told something which was very phenomenally, which actually gave us even more confidence, was that he told us that I feel you guys have that potential, that in future you can come as sharks yourself.
Oh,
And he took an example of a US company which basically came later as sharks itself.
okay.
So that gave us a lot of confidence. So our overall experience was super interesting and fun.
That's very nice. And how has it been post this episode airing?
So post this episode airing, has been a lot of interest. Everyone has got an opinion. Okay, the problem I have faced also is that by default in India, people always compared you to US counterparts. Whereas what we are essentially building is for global market, right? People need to also understand in any market there are going to be competitors. But the best part are we are among the earliest ones already there. So even if you look at the competitors, right, they are actually launching in March, April, lots of them, right? Lots of them, actually two only, right? We are already there. We are also going to be one of the earliest one.
Okay.
We have filed for patents also around this.
Okay.
And now there needs to be a lot of learning around people backing hardware startups from India, because truly original hardware startups are very limited in India. So one of the startups which I admire is Aether, which for me was truly innovative hardware startup to come out. Their journey has been also quite challenging, right? Because right from the time you are supposed to build, right, where I believe that government as such to an extent needs to actually allow innovation. Hardware. I personally felt that there is a lot of skepticism when you go to investors, when you go to anyone, because hardware is not built in India. So this is something which I expect more out of India. Unless and until we don't get it out of India, we are never going to be a deep tech, or basically, with all due respect, hardware first players like other markets.
Correct. Is it because of the funding that's required for hardware, right? The initial investment is very huge. Is that a constraining factor why people kind of not?
It's the biggest concerning factor. So any deep tech, consumer tech or hardware company as such requires investment. That's where you need backing, right? And that is something which I feel to an extent government, or even there should be some sort of subsidies which you provide to investment arms also, which basically gives you that power to invest more on hardware startups, because there is so much of skepticism. In fact, 2 days back, I was actually speaking to an investor. He was like, there is no innovative hardware startup which came out of India ever. Okay, so that's why we are very skeptic.
So how do you kind of surpass that? Like when investors would be asking for that, right? Because even they are skeptical when it comes to investing in hardware. Because of
by being, I think that's a trade, by being maniac. So for me, I was always maniac when it came to other things also. When people were like, I started running for marathon. Okay, people were like, now, how are you going to be so fast at this age? How are you going to? So I still remember my first marathon, I had a time of 1 hour 44 minutes, which was still, and this was 21 kilometers. So I was still in top 44. This was because everyone challenged. Similarly, I got into fitness so much once upon a time that I used to work out 4 to 5 hours. Okay, just to be that fit in terms of boxing and MMA, right? Because people were like, how can you achieve those? So I believe human and mental and physical boundaries are very elastic and you can push it. When people came about this, okay, one of the biggest examples, people might like him, might not like him in Musk. He is creating reusable rocket. If you can create reusable rocket, you can do anything in the world. Okay, and that for me was very interesting that now people laughed at him also. In biography, one of the biggest things he wrote when he left basically PayPal at that point of time, SpaceX when he was building, at that point of time, people used to laugh at him. And that's where I was like, let's go for it.
All right. So then just one more thing. Can you tell us how can a person get into Shark Tank? Like what is the process they have to, go through as a founder?
So basically, the process is very straightforward, very simple. That you get into basically those rounds. So first is you submit your entry, then you would get another. If you get through, there would be another round. There you submit your videos similar to what YC does, right?
Yeah.
And then third is basically if they like you have to submit your documents, and then they might call you for in-person audition, which is with their team. In our case, the fun part was our in-person audition with the team was even better, much, much more better than what I presented during the tank pitch. Okay, so we spoke with their team also afterward. Super sweet team. They were like, your pitch on that day was something else. Okay, because it was very chill. Okay, we were able to explain it, and the feeling is different, right? And then finally you move to audition. I think in our case, we skipped through all these rounds except for the second last and the last round. So basically, first also I thought last moment we applied. Somehow they gave us another call, which we kept video. There also, I think we went last moment to in-person audition when we were, I think our audition took place at 9-10 o'clock on the last day. Again, scraped through. And then essentially what happened is then we became one of the first things to get into Shark Tank, which was quite an interesting journey. But yeah.
So anything for the founders that they can prepare for, like anything which would, help them get to the last round?
I think the first thing is anything, right? Be it applying for YC, be it applying for Shark Tank, right? You need to be very clear in what is the problem you are solving for and how are you solving it. If that's clear, then your odds increases, right? Because when you are doing video also, it needs to be simple, right? What target audience you are targeting, what is your problem statement, and how you are targeting it. So yeah.
For these founders who are now very keen on applying for Y Combinator, you see a lot of Indian founders, Indian origin. So why that craze, and what do you feel? Is it a good move to get funded by Y Combinator and kind of move out from India?
Being funded by Y Combinator, I think it's the most legendary accelerator program in the world. Okay, so if you get their backing, okay, that opens up market for you. Everyone looks for you because they are sort of biggest validator for early companies, right? And and you can still get into YC and still be essentially doing more for Indian market. For example, in Shark Tank itself, there are so many companies, for example, Snitch, which went on to become so massive, right? There are lots of such companies which are creating big by getting into programs like Shark Tank also, where now you have got operators who can help you build much larger businesses as operators, right? So I also believe that Shark Tank is actually a very powerful platform because of the fact that you have got operators like Anupam Mittal, Namita Thapar, Piyush Bansal, Ritesh, all these guys, right? They are operator first. And when they are operator first, they can help you in building their business and opening your ecosystem, which is what you need, right? So I think Shark Tank now for India has become a very powerful tool. And that's why that's why I believe more and more entrepreneurs will start going to Shark Tank continuously.
Got it. And then let's talk about the swanky pendant chain that you're wearing. I think that's what has been the fascination. So can you tell me about Neo Sapien? Firstly, why the name? How did it begin, like the whole thought process of starting this?
So Neo Sapien means creating a smarter race of humans. Now what has essentially happened is over the last 5 years, 75% of world's data has been created.
Yeah.
Complete world's data. So we as humans basically evolved from Homo habilis to Homo erectus to Homo sapiens on the basis of amount of information and complexity of processing the information. But post-COVID, this was the first time that 75% of world's data got created. And right now, our memory retention rate is only 2%. So that's why to actually evolve to the next race of humans, we believe second brain is going to be very important. And that's why we are building your second brain. Now, what essentially this second brain can do is it can understand your daily lives. By daily lives, it can capture your moments where you are working out. It can capture your professional life, the meetings which you are doing. It can also understand if you are going on dates, whether you are going to connect with an individual or not, right? So that's how we started on it. The larger vision which we see is basically it will replace mobiles in terms of decision making. We believe fundamentally that human machine interface interaction will change. So right how you basically moved from your desktop to laptops to your mobiles, now is the age of personal assistants where we are going to be at the forefront. So everything right from drafting your mails you can do via Neo ones to basically ordering food because it understands your cuisine and calorie target. Everything decision making you can do via your Neo one. So that's where we are targeting. And I think future we want to be one of the biggest consumer tech company to come out of the world.
Got it. And when did you start working on this?
So we were basically essentially working in March, April onwards on a mental health startup, which was around effective communication.
Okay.
We pivoted to this idea last December. It's been more than 1.2 years to work on hardware. And hardware, people should understand it takes around more than at least a year to build because there is so many iterations. And this is like the iteration which you are seeing is actually around version 5.5 because in one version we had to change a lot.
So can you elaborate on why it's difficult to build a hardware?
Hardware is difficult because you need to be like a maniac, okay, to be pursuing it. Because there are lots of challenges which can break, lots of things which can break. Your software can break, your hardware can break. Again, simple example, when I went into Shark Tank, the only thing I had to pray was that I get enough internet connectivity inside that we are able to do demo. Because if we can't do demo, then basically our company would shut down. Because Shark Tank can go either ways, right? You can either become very famous, you get viral, or basically you are a goner. Okay, then your company can essentially shut down, right? So hardware is very difficult. I mean, you have seen SpaceX, which I was talking about. How many? It took 7 launches for them to finally get best, finally do the launch, right? Similarly, the second thing which basically is also very important is that people right now also Mac recently has this busting issues of battery where they were not allowed in airports, right? So hardware creating is very difficult. There is lots of testing because hardware, there is lots of element including firmware which helps you in connecting with your software, right? So that part is completely different. It takes a lot of work and then there is software.
Oh, wow. So how can we address that? Like why do we have...
because you have to promote your hardware startups. People need to stop comparing a Neo Sapien to a competitor in US without using it. People need to stop comparing a Ether to another competitor in US without using it. People need to start using it. People need to start backing it. We need to have a platform like a Kickstarter, which is known in the US to be one of the biggest platforms for hardware, right? Where people support. They are willing to test it out. They are willing to back it. We need platforms like that to come out of India.
But here also we have all these national startup missions, incentives, tax redemptions. So isn't that furthering the startup cause in India?
Yeah, so I believe basically one of the things is there have been tax incentives, which is basically the last one was in Wearables and Wearables, right, which was launched. But overall, we need more backing, more incentives, right, for hardware. There needs to be much more incentives that, for example, which back specific Indian startups. Imagine if you allow people who are basically building rockets, hardware, okay, now e-taxis, okay, for people who don't know, in India, there are lots of innovation which is going on. We are now basically building casks for rockets. Okay, we are building e-taxis. There are companies doing it, right? We are building lots of EVs which are coming out, right? How about you just make it tax-free? Because this is something which you need for better infrastructure of your country, right? Make it as much as subsidized as possible. Back them up.
Coming to the hardware part of Neo Sapien, would you be able to describe like how was it built? What kind of tech stack or models that you use for it?
So basically our how was it built was basically the complete hardware and software was built in two ways. One being that we have already patented our product and process. Okay, so we are in process. Now I know what actually it comes down to how do you understand what you are talking, how it is annotating, and how it is retrieving, right? So now everything, if I keep on talking to you, my co-founder, my family member, it will start understanding from your voice fingerprinting, because everyone has unique voice.
Yeah.
So it can give me a feedback. What did I speak to you first time, second time, third time? It will also remind me that this is the first thing I spoke to. These were the key takeaways which I need to discuss about,
Correct.
right? And the last part also is that because it's like your second brain, it understands you, it understands my cousin, it understands my friend, right? So it basically create nodes like my second brain. So I could query on top of it. So I can ask things like, which of my friends would be interested to go on treks? Okay, which of you, or for example, which of those investors would be interested in investing on us? Or for example, if I'm going on dates, will I truly connect with this person? Because it has my deep context, right? So that's what we have built. In terms of hardware, we wanted to be limited to something which is very new age. And that's why the neckwear came in. Because neckwear, there are two things, right? Neckwear, there is less competition. Accessory as a market, it is increasing. But neckwear is one of the most increasing categories. And neckwear has the least amount of competition. But this is just the beginning, where all Neo Sapien is going to disrupt. Is still to be seen. We are pretty sure where we are going to disrupt. This is just the starting point.
Got it. A bit on the human machine interface or the kind of communication we have. Don't you think that we're moving to a future where we're going to be very dependent on machines or kind of devices to guide us through things? You kind of like not want to make decisions on your own. You want someone to assist you.
I think it's going to be more of an enabler, right? One of the biggest questions which people keep on asking me is, it's going to take your jobs away, all those kind of things, right? The reality is when green revolution came in, right? That point of time, lots of workers, not the men farmers, actually lost their job, but essentially productivity increased significantly, right? So that's why every one of us is able to have food, right now. Similarly, you are going into that phase where now basically specific creative output. So it is now going to all your things which were earlier more redundant will get converted into AI specific tasks. Okay, where now AI can take over and enable you. Your creativity should move to next level. And to make sure that we are an enabler, that's why we wanted to enable you more as humans, right? One of the biggest challenges which I face right now is people are always on their cell phones even when I am going out, even when I'm meeting, right? Now, when you are wearing Neo One, you don't want to be in cell phone. You are in the moment. People need to start enjoying in the moment, which in the last 5 years, people have stopped enjoying. 90% are lonely, 87% are suffering from relationship issues. Why? Because they are always on their digital life rather than real life.
Got it. So would you say that this is also targeting, say, mental health patients, people who would want help in any way? Is Neo Sapien looking to cater to that market?
That market is also our market, okay? Because essentially what we have realized, people who are suffering from dementia, people who have ADHD, people like me, people who basically want to understand your emotions better, this is the best self-reflective tool. So for example, one of the things in our user research we realized, people are losing self-awareness because of digital, right? This was one of the biggest things. Everyone actually told us that they believe that last 5 years have been more chaotic than their last 10, 20 years. These 3 to 5 years have been the most chaotic of their life. They are also not self-aware about themselves, okay, which has significantly taken a dip. Now, this is a self-reflective tool where now you can understand when I am talking to you, it can understand what are my emotions, how I am talking to you, whether I am able to effectively communicate, whether I am getting more stressed out during my... Imagine with that self-reflection, now it can enhance your actually overall reflection, self-reflection, right? So this will help in multiple things, right? Not only in specific mental health issues or issues like a dementia or for example your ADHD, but just in self-reflection. And that for me, another interesting fact post-COVID has been while mental health issues have increased, non-clinical ones have increased to, they are 90% of the issues. And that can be solved when you actually know more about yourself. So what does essentially therapy do? Therapy makes you understand about what you are doing. So here, if you know a wearable, which actually where you can talk day in and day out and it can give you feedback on your context, imagine how clear in your mind you will be.
So I know you mentioned that not to compare with the US products or US competitor, it's an Indian mindset. I think I'm going to bring up that question again. So we've had AI wearables like say Humane AI pin, you had the friend pendant. But if you notice, at least Humane AI pin, people's reception and the kind of feedback was not very positive, and they were more like maybe there's more to work on. And even when Friend released what that teaser is and etc., again people were talking about why do we have this or giving their opinion. So in such a scenario, where does Neo Sapien kind of fit in? Like, how is it different from that? And do you think the people here would be more adaptive to this technology?
So my competitor is Neuralink. Okay.
Oh.
So that's a different thing. Our competitor is Neuralink. And not
so people to understand the brain computer interface.
That's a brain computer interface. I think with our research, it has shown that first it will move to human machine interface. Then it will move to a brain computer interface, right?
Okay.
By that point of time, we will have enough data to even get more miniaturized, right? So that is our competitors talking about Humane and Friend.
Yeah.
I'm a massive fan of both of them. But with Humane, one of the things is लोगों को सब चीजें easy चाहिए. ठीक है, people want things to be simpler.
Yeah.
And when they want a real estate of your body, it needs to look sexy. It needs to look something which you would like to flaunt.
Yeah.
Humane started doing too many things. While their tech was phenomenal, but it was a pin which was 55 grams in weight. Okay. And they were doing basically your lasers. They had video. They had also voice inputs, right? All those things together increases complexity on your systems, which increase overall response times. So the response time, as per review, was between 12 to 14 seconds, which for people is very less. And the battery life, because of all this complexity, was only 2 to 4 hours.
I think there was overheating also by charging. And
so that was huge thing. That's why Humane did not work. Friend is doing decently well. Okay, so what I like about Friend is I was massive fan of characters.ai also, where people started using it for different use cases, talking to different replicas.
Yeah.
Limitless. No, basically friend.com is more like your AI boyfriend and girlfriend, which will keep on nudging you. Now their GTM was more towards loneliness, right? I want my boyfriend, I want my girlfriend. Where we fit in is closer to Neuralink, where I know you. So every intelligence is your personalized intelligence, which is, and any product which develops develops on the vision of the founders, right? Neuralink developed so because it was vision of Musk. Okay, SpaceX developed because it was Musk, right? Similarly, Apple, right? So here my vision is simple, that we want to build the best human-machine interface where you can do everything. It understands your deep context better than anyone else. And whenever you need anything, right, your enhanced memory recall feature can help you. Also, it will help you in decision making.
God. And right now it's a voice mode, right? Like you can talk to it and it also replies. Is that how it is?
Yeah. So currently it replies via our app where you can ask specific questions.
Okay.
And it will respond on deep context of yours. It's like your wingman, okay, which will always understand you.
Correct. And is vision a capability that you want to build sometime in the future? Where
there are lots of interesting things which are going to come out in future, which are already in pipeline. When we are talking about being the biggest consumer tech company, we are talking because we have got so many things to come, which will basically shock the world that these things can be built by an Indian company.
Got it. Anything you can discuss right now for in the pipeline?
So basically, vision is in the pipeline. Tracking is in the pipeline. Right. What we believe is we want to see everything you see. We want to feel everything you feel. We want to hear everything you talk.
Any limitations or challenges that you see right now in Neo Sapien that you're working on?
So there are, in hardware, I think there will always be limitation. Even Musk had limitation when he was doing Tesla. I think the biggest example is he basically took Lotus Ellipse, okay, which was the best selling car at that point of time. With their complete body, he then built basically Tesla, right? Those were the first ones of Tesla which were able to come out. The supply side in these things, hardware, that is a very difficult nut to crack because you have a molding partner, which you are going to partner with. You will also have battery, okay, which you are going to get from a partner like a Panasonic in future. And then basically you can also look at creating your own PCB, right? Which once you create the design, it needs to be fabricated, right? So all those things are very complex to work together. The bigger challenge for me is adoption overall. How Indian market will adopt to this product, which is completely new, right? While in US market there was so much buzz that Humane got sold out in 7 minutes or 7 seconds, something of that sort. Revit Arvan Tech did, right? I just want to see how much is the adoption in Indian market.
Got it. So is it in the market now, or when is it due for launch?
So basically our first batch has been sold out, okay, which were bought initially by our backers, friends who were out there. They wanted to pay, they wanted to get it. So we were sold out with that. Now second batch, which we are building, which is again extremely high quality, because with every batch you learn, which is going to be people who have ordered during post Shark Tank as well.
Okay.
That is going to come out in 28 Feb, by 28 Feb, which is basically just 1 month. And people also understand that hardware generally shipping can take up to 1 month, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah.
And what is the cost or the pricing of the product?
So totally we are selling it for 9,999, which is early period offer, where we might end up burning a bit. Okay, but we wanted to make sure that more people have our wearable in their hand. Post that, we might increase the price.
Correct. And any reason for the shape that you have, the rectangular shape, and maybe not a circle or an oval?
Yeah, we did a lot of user research. Okay. And when people came up with this, they really liked it. And as you can see, LED also is like, it breathes with you. So whenever I am talking, you will see it's like breathing symbol, right?
Okay.
And then there is an N, which is like horseshoe shape, then which is gateway, which also seems like gateway to new experiences, new magical experiences. So we wanted to make it very unique, very high quality product to come out of India.
Correct. And any feedback that you got, say from, I think just watching the episode, like how people are discussing AI wearables, what has been some of the interesting conversation? It can be controversial also, where people have been
both sides of it. So we have got one of the most interesting thing, better than anything else. We have got some most phenomenal candidates to reach out. Okay. They've reached out so much that they are taking fund of basically dissing off their 90% salary
to be part of this. Okay.
And get our ESOPs, because they believe this is something massive.
Yeah.
So that is one part of it, which I am really thankful that the quality of candidate is phenomenal.
Got it. And any feedback that kind of actually made you guys also think that, this could be something we could work on in the future?
Lots of things. So I think you continuously, internally team also, we are very, very brutal. Okay. One of the feedbacks which we received overall is how to increase. So basically the wearable which you see on the tank versus here is almost 60% of the size of what you see. So we have reduced the size by almost 45 is sort of percent, because we receive feedback that while men would like to wear something chunkier, okay, women might not like to wear. So that's why we actually worked essentially.
Got it. I think you missed out on asking you about this. So is it something like, say it works on an agentic kind of format, like an AI agent, can you call it?
So sort of you can say that currently it's your agent, which in future will work with all the other agents. So for public, I will make it understand proper. This is your personal assistant, which is your agent. In future, it will work with agents. So like if you had to book a flight, it will work with that agent. If you had to order a food, it will work with those specific agents. Or if you had to draft an email, it will work with those agents. So this is your personal agent, which will then start talking to all the other agents in future.
And when it comes to backing, like, can you talk about the investors that you have on board, on the advisory board, etc.?
So the most amazing part is we have one of the most strongest cap table. Okay, we had got Samir Mehta, CEO and co-founder of Bot. Okay. He looks into complete tech of Bot. He has been one of the most helpful guys. We have got Anupam Mittal, who everyone knows. We have got Namita Thapar, who also everyone knows. Okay. Then we have got my previous co-founders of Humane, Tanuj and Srikant Iyer, Tanuj Chaudhary and Srikant Iyer. We have also got basically Srivatsan Chari, who is the co-founder of ClearTex. Okay, we have got Untitled Ventures, who are also very good in terms of doing selective investments.
Yep.
So we have got investors who are very, very good in terms of being operators, right? So we have got that cream of operators.
And what is your vision for this year? Like in terms of maybe even scaling your team or in terms of the product itself?
So I want to keep my team very limited to a 20-member team. I have always been moved by 2-3 companies. One is Zerodha, how they function with the smallest team.
Yeah.
Another one is basically your Truecaller. Again, I think it's at 18-member team, right? So we wanted to build, and this is my product head. She keeps on telling me we need to build 10x team. Okay, who is 10x in every way. Okay, so that's what we are building, 10x team. So with 10x team, it also gives us the advantage that first is the team which we have also hired those guys. If anyone is joining you, who has taken a 90% cut on their salaries and is joining you majority on the way of stocks or other things, right?
Yeah.
Then they are invested in the growth of your company. They will always stay with you because for them, that is the biggest fund which they are going to take, right? So those are the kind of people which we have got.
Got it, Dhananjay. And on the lighter side, who's a tech CEO founder that you look up to? An Indian one or outside India?
Overall founder which I look up to Musk. Okay, because he is phenomenal. Okay, if you wanted to go very, very specific, okay, I would also say that I really like reading a lot about Nadella, okay, because he turned around Microsoft. His thing was, first he wanted to make culture very good, okay. So hence you will see that even at the co-working space where we are in, I wanted to make sure that while my team has taken cut on their salaries, they need to feel good when they're working. So I'm very particular about culture.
I totally agree with that because even I'm a little biased towards Elon Musk. But at the same time,
Hopefully soon people would be biased towards Dhananjay Yadav. So yeah.
And any tech CEO or leader that you look up to, and then say from India?
Tech CEO and leader which I look up to, very interesting. So I still appreciate a lot what Razorpay has done. Okay. I'm a massive fan of both of the founders. I really do believe that they have done phenomenal in terms of creating a finance platform for payments. So I really feel they are very impactful overall. Then I look up to tech CEO, which for me has been instrumental in my life, is Samir Mehta. Okay, which is phenomenal, building a company like a boat. Okay, which is a consumer tech. Really, really, truly appreciate.
So Dhananjay, can you tell me how did you get into being a founder? How did this happen?
So I did not ever wanted to become a founder. Anyone who comes and tells me founder बनना है, मैं बोलता हूँ क्यों बनना है? ठीक है, because founder is the most difficult job. You will earn money only post Series A. Okay, what you will lose is your social life. Actually, it's 18 to 20 hours of work every day. You can never be switched off. Okay, so when people tell me if there is a mission which you want to be a part of. So in my case, there was Razorpay, there was Humane, okay, where I felt that I want to be a part of this journey, okay. I was a part of the journey where I was hustling, but I could still take some time off, right? Being a founder, you cannot take time off. And that's where it got me to here. Otherwise, I would have continued to be somewhere in the early team or somewhere in a bigger team also, living a decent life, traveling, focusing on my fitness, just having my social life. So yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Dhananjay. This has been truly insightful. Good luck with your venture.
Thank you.